What's happening, everybody? An SEC quarterback retires from football. Two others declare for the draft, while another announces he's officially coming back. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We'll get you caught up with all the latest news going on around the conference the last couple of days. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And we're going to jump right into it. We got to start with the big news coming out yesterday as Brock Vandagriff, the Kentucky quarterback, is no more at Kentucky. And no, he is not entering the transfer portal. According to multiple reports out there from the Lexington Herald-Leader, Brock Vandagriff is going to retire from football. Now, here's a kid that was a former five-star recruit out of the state of Georgia, originally signed with the hometown or home state Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart, redshirted in 2021, appeared in just 3 games in 2022, and, was a member of the 2 national title winning teams in those years at Georgia. And, you kind of thought, okay, he's the next guy waiting in the wings, but Carson Beck, was the guy this year. And so, he decided to hit the portal and went over to Kentucky after seeing minimal action in 2023. And everybody kind of thought, okay, this will be the next guy, because they had this string of Will Levis and then Devin Leary last year and then Brock Vandagriff this year. And it just never really panned out. And so, there was kind of a lot of speculation on, was he going to come back for this next year with still eligibility and all that. But, the winter window for non-graduates to enter the transfer portal closed on Saturday without news of, is he coming back to Kentucky? Is he leaving or whatever? And finally, a UK spokesperson confirmed with the Herald-Leader that Vandagriff has elected to retire from playing football. And again, it's just pretty crazy for a guy that was literally a 5-star high school recruit and, was highly touted. And a lot of people believe that he could be the next big thing or next really productive quarterback at Kentucky. But it just, like we said, never really clicked this year. And so Kentucky failed to score more than 20 points against a Power 4 conference opponent. We're not solely, that's not all on his shoulders, but it didn't help. It didn't help. And obviously Bush Hampton, the OC, he was criticized by Kentucky fans and everyone else. But Vandagriff finishes his lone season as the starter at Kentucky, having completed just 57% of his passes for under 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So, with Vandagriff retiring and now their backup Gavin Wimsatt, who came in, he's already entered the transfer portal. Cutter Boley was the freshman who came in. He's the only scholarship quarterback returning on Kentucky's roster. Now, they are bringing in former A&M and Incarnate Word transfer quarterback Zach Calzada, and a lot of people expect he will earn that job, but it'll be between him and Cutter Boley, and they will be joined by 3-star high school signees Stone Saunders and Brennan Ward when they get to campus in January. So, again, this will be a 4th straight year that Kentucky will have a different starting quarterback. Will Levis in 22, Devin Leary in 23, Brock Vandagriff in 24, and now most likely Calzada or Boley in 25. But just really, really strange. There was some rumblings about Vandagriff and, really if he wanted to keep doing this. And obviously it was a really awful year at Kentucky, but retiring from football, just you don't see that happen very often again to big 4- and 5-star recruits that are only a couple years into their college career. The other big news that came out from the weekend, Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia is, we talked about the court ruling that granted him an additional year of eligibility. Well, he took to Twitter on Saturday night to announce the news that he will indeed remain with the Commodores in 2025. He tweeted out, "Nash Vegas, I'm officially back for another year. Next year will be the biggest year in Vanderbilt history." There was some thought that, okay, he got this extra year of eligibility, but Was he going to transfer elsewhere, go to the highest bidder? And, his eligibility was set to expire before that court ruling came through following that suit against the NCAA in November. And the judge made the decision December 18th to grant a preliminary injunction. So that gives him another year of eligibility. But Diego Pavia saying he is going to stay at Vanderbilt. It makes a lot of sense. He likes Clark Lee. He likes, Tim Beck and Jerry Kill and that whole staff over there. So good news for Vanderbilt, bad news for some of the teams that struggle with Vanderbilt this year, because he is definitely coming back. Again, it's not breaking news because we knew, a week or so ago that he was granted the extra year of eligibility. But the breaking news is that he officially announced he's coming back to Vanderbilt and that he's not going to even explore other avenues of playing. In other news over the weekend, and not really surprising, but Carson Beck officially declared for the NFL draft, put out a statement, said the past 5 years at the University of Georgia have been nothing short of a dream come true. Thank you, Dog Nation, for the time I've been here and those who've supported me. If you missed it, the news came out last week that he is officially not going to be ready for a return with the elbow injury. So, he's not going to play for Georgia this postseason. But, any thought of maybe cards on the table of coming back for another year at Georgia, that isn't going to happen. He said, with that being said, I will be declaring for the 2025 NFL draft. And look, his name is up there with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Miller, some of the other names that are considered the better quarterbacks in this draft. So Carson Beck will be heading to the NFL draft. Also, Jaxson Dart made his official announcement on Friday, sharing a heartfelt message with Ole Miss fans who have cheered him on through his record-breaking career. He said, to Rebel Nation, words can't express the depth of my feelings and emotions. Thank you for the love and support. Who would have known a kid who grew up in Utah would find his way to the great state of Mississippi in order to fulfill his college gridiron dreams? But Dart officially announcing he is done with his college career and will be taking his talents to the NFL draft. So, again, no big surprise there. We kind of expected both those guys moving on. But Jaxson Dart and Carson Beck both heading to the NFL draft. One other tidbit here, Texas, they're preparing for their game in Atlanta, taking on Arizona State in the Peach Bowl in the playoff. And Isaiah Bond sounds like he is going to be a go. According to a Sunday report from Pete Thamel, Isaiah Bond will suit up in the Peach Bowl quarterfinal, and big time get back for him. Third leading receiver for Texas this year, 532 yards and 5 touchdowns. So good news there for Texas. Over at Mississippi State, kind of interesting coaching news there. They are bolstering their coaching staff, hiring 2 assistant coaches away from Deion Sanders over at Colorado. Matt Zenitz of 24/7 Sports reporting that they're bringing Colorado offensive line coach Phil Lodeholt and defensive analyst Vincent Dancy. Lodeholt is a former Oklahoma and NFL O-lineman, very familiar with Levy from his days at Ole Miss and Oklahoma. And then Dancy was the head coach at Mississippi Valley prior to joining Deion and staff in Boulder. So we'll see, the roles that those guys take on. But obviously 2 key additions there for Jeff Levy over there at Mississippi State. They need all the help that they can get. One more note here in this segment, Oklahoma co-defensive coordinator Zach Alley, according to when we recorded this, very close to being named the next defensive coordinator at West Virginia. ESPN's Pete Thamel noting that Zach Alley previously worked for Rich Rodriguez at Jacksonville State, and Rodriguez was just named West Virginia's head coach earlier this month, replacing Neil Brown. So Zach Alley spends just 1 season at Oklahoma as Brent Venables brought him to Norman to replace Ted Roof to help coordinate that defense and get it going. But Oklahoma's other co-defensive coordinator for 2024 was Todd Bates, who also serves as the program's defensive tackles coach. And of course, Brent Venables has a big part in game planning and setting up the defense. But Zach Alley's reported move to West Virginia will mean Oklahoma will be changing both coordinators for a second consecutive offseason. The offensive side of the ball, they already hired Ben Arbuckle away from Washington State, who is going to call plays there. And of course, bring in the quarterback, John Mateer, who is going to, assuming be the starting quarterback there. But Zach Alley moving on from Oklahoma, reportedly his departure from Oklahoma. As of this recording, still not confirmed by the school as confirmed yet, but we will certainly keep an eye on that. And big news there in Oklahoma, replacing both coordinators. All right, thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll get you caught up with some of the portal moves that happened the last couple days. That is coming your way here in just a second. First, I want to remind you guys today's episode presented to you by our friends over at Rocket Money. Look, did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It's definitely happened before. We've had a few subscriptions that maybe you don't even realize that you're still paying for. Rocket Money, they make it so easy to track them down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. And Rocket Money is a personal finance app that will help you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and help lower your bills so you can grow your savings. So we'll bring everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when you use all the app's premium features. And look, if you want to cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money, go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon right now. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Go check them out today. All right, continue on here on Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep checking us out. It's a little bit of a convoluted week with coming out of Christmas, going into New Year's, and a lot of moving parts with all the bowl games and playoff games and all this. We are going to have you guys covered with some great content from the Sugar Bowl with Georgia taking on Notre Dame. So keep an eye out for some of that content coming to you this week. All right, we need to dive back into it, get you caught up on the latest news in the transfer portal, and we got to get over to Tennessee because there was some interesting stuff happening over at Tennessee. They first off, we start with the wide receiver Mike Matthews, the freshman wideout for the Vols last year. Saw some action in the receiver rotation, logged 7 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns during the season, played in 10 games. Also saw some limited work in the return game as well, took 1 kickoff back for 32 yards. But he apparently is entering the transfer portal. And prior to enrolling at Tennessee, he was ranked as a 5-star plus prospect, checked in as the number 26 overall recruit in the nation, according to On3 Sports. He's the number 6 receiver in that 2024 recruiting class. And that's a big loss there for Tennessee if he indeed does stay in the portal. And, that came on the heels of Squirrel White announcing that he was intending to enter the portal. White's played 3 seasons at Tennessee, had a pretty sizable role in their offense all 3 years, played in 38 games, career games with 131 catches for over 1,600 yards and 6 touchdowns. His best career season came this year with 800 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Injuries that was last year rather. Injuries did slow him down this year and had a career low in receiving yards, just under 400 yards on 34 catches. But again, you have to wonder. I mean, look, it's not like they're replacing a quarterback or something. Nico Iamaleava is back. You would think, with a couple other guys moving on, Dante Thornton and Brew McCoy, you would think, okay, well, big opportunity is going to open up here for those guys. But Josh Heupel, look, he's never going to have a problem with finding receivers. He always has guys, but just kind of thought that those would be 2 guys that would be around and be in the mix. And certainly Matthews, he was so highly touted and highly thought of. You would thought, that he would step into an even bigger role next season. There was some good news for Tennessee fans, though. Cornerback Boo Carter announced he is staying on Rocky Top. He announced on social media he's back home. There was some speculation that, after having a great freshman year, that maybe he might jump in the portal and head elsewhere. But he did also mention in his social media that the Volunteer Club, the Tennessee NIL Collective, signed a new NIL deal with him. So he said, home sweet home to me. So good news there for Tennessee fans. Boo Carter is going to be sticking around there on Rocky Top. Some other news in the transfer portal as we look over at Texas A&M. They signed a big-time transfer portal addition on Sunday. Texas A&M picking up former NC State wide receiver Kevin Concepion, and that is that's a big one because he was one of the best players in this transfer portal, according to all the pundits out there. 2 years ago, he burst onto the scene at NC State as a freshman with over 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. Used him out of the backfield. He had over 300 rushing yards. This year, numbers dipped with just 53 catches for 460 yards and 6 touchdowns, but certainly a dynamic playmaker and a lot of ability. And Marcel Reed looking for some help there, as he will have some big-time weapons to throw the football to this coming season. And obviously, Concepion coming over from NC State, that is a big-time addition. They also brought over Mario Craver from Mississippi State. So, yeah, look, A&M quietly kind of doing it again like they did last year. Them and Ole Miss crushed it in the portal. This year, you got LSU's making a lot of waves and some other schools, but both Ole Miss and A&M doing it again. And like I said, A&M kind of under the radar so far with the pieces they've added to the portal and some playmakers there at wide receiver. Speaking of LSU, over there, they got another addition in their portal class over the weekend as they got a commitment from Northwestern offensive lineman Josh Thompson on Friday. He chose LSU over the likes of Ohio State and Tennessee. He was rated the number 6 interior O-lineman in the transfer portal, according to 24/7 Sports. So, again, another piece there for Brian Kelly to add. Also, some big news. LSU got an announcement over the weekend that LSU linebacker / edge rusher Harold Perkins announced he is going to return for the 2025 season. If you remember, he got a lot of hype coming into the season, was expected to, have a big year defensively. He was going to head off to the NFL draft, and all the mock drafts had him as a first-round pick. Well, he ends up getting hurt early in the season, and there was a lot of speculation as the year was going along. Is Harold Perkins Jr. going to come back for another year? Is he just going to say, screw it, I'm done, I'm going off to the NFL draft? Well, no, Harold Perkins is coming back to LSU. So a big announcement there for LSU. And the good news continues to roll in for LSU, who had some bad news there a couple weeks ago. And Bryce Underwood, the big top recruit, flipped to Michigan. Other portal news in Mississippi State, running back Kevon Lee is entering the portal once again. He was the former Penn State transfer that came in, was very productive for Mississippi State this year, but he announced his intentions to enter the portal as a grad assistant. But racked up 41 carries for 215 yards and a touchdown at Mississippi State. So Kevon Lee moving on. Over at Mizzou, they picked up a commitment from former West Virginia offensive lineman Johnny Williams. He's a redshirt freshman, will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. He's a native of Georgia, was a former 3-star recruit, a top 60 offensive tackle in the class of 2023. So Johnny Williams looking to jump into the mix there on the O-line at Missouri. Over at Kentucky, they lost a member of their receiving core, Hardly Gilmore, a top 100 wide receiver from the class of 2024, entering the portal over the weekend. A little bit of a shocker there from some Kentucky fans that kind of were expecting him to step up into a bigger role this year. And, it's a lot of flux there where they already lost Barrion Brown, who's now at LSU, Dane Key, who a lot of people thought he was going to go to Georgia, ended up transferring to Nebraska. I believe Macklin is back, and then they're adding Kendrick Law from Alabama and Hester from Oklahoma. And Zach Calzada most likely at quarterback, but Hardly Gilmore, top 100 wide receiver, no longer going to be with the Kentucky Wildcats. He is hitting the portal and moving on. All right, there you have it. That's the latest going on with the transfer portal. When we return, we will get you guys caught up on the bowl games from Friday. There were 4 of them, and SEC fared well in 2. The other 2, not so much. We'll get you caught up on the latest there coming up next right here on Locked On SEC. Stay where you are. First, I want to remind you guys about our friends over at the Texas Bowl. And college football fans, time is running out. The Kinder's Texas Bowl is coming up on tomorrow with Baylor and LSU. The game is almost sold out. The 100, 200, 300, 400 levels are already gone, but you can still grab a spot in the action. Upper level tickets are just $40, an incredible deal for an unforgettable game. If you live in the Houston area or Texas area, and you're looking for something to do on New Year's Eve, take the kids out. It's an afternoon game. And again, these tickets are not going to last long. Go secure your seat now at kinderstexasbowl.com before they are all gone. That's Kinders, Kinders, TexasBowl.com. Get your Texas Bowl tickets and get in the building to see what should be an awesome matchup between Baylor and LSU as we cap off the 2024 year of 2024 with the Kinder's Texas Bowl. All right, jumping back into it here on Locked On SEC. And look, for those of you who didn't see it on Friday, it was 4 fun games with the SEC. It was like a quadruple header, I was calling it. It was back-to-back games for those who stayed up late enough watching USC in the Las Vegas Bowl. But first off, let's jump into it as we discuss. First up on Friday, it was Oklahoma. They jumped out to a 14-0 first quarter lead on Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl. They led 14-7 at halftime, but Navy would score 3 straight touchdowns to take a 21-14 lead with less than 4 minutes to go in the game. Michael Hawkins, he would take the Sooners down the field for the potential game-tying touchdown with just 6 seconds left, but Brent Venables and team opt to go for 2 and the win. And Hawkins would get pressured, and the 2-point attempt would fail, and OU would fall to Navy 21-20. Now, Hawkins was a bright spot in this when he threw for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushed for 61 yards as well. And running back Gavin Sawchuk rushed for 67 yards and a score. But it's look, it's going to be very interesting. We expect John Mateer to be the quarterback next year at Oklahoma, but Hawkins is going to have a say in this thing. There should be a nice battle going into the spring there at Oklahoma, and Hawkins has indicated he's sticking around, that he's not going to enter the transfer portal. But disappointing finish for Oklahoma in year one in the SEC. They finished sub 500, 6-7 overall. So not the way that Oklahoma wanted to premiere, as their counterpart Texas is making a deep playoff run once again in the postseason. Oklahoma misses the playoffs, and not only that, finishes sub 500 in year one in the conference. In the afternoon game on Friday, it was Vanderbilt jumping out to an early lead on Georgia Tech. They held a 14-10 halftime lead, and late in the second half, they would take a 35-13 lead before the Yellow Jackets would score twice to make it look a little bit closer. But Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores, they win at 35-27. Pavia threw for 160 with 3 touchdown passes, also had 84 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. There was a weather delay that, maybe it might have taken some of the momentum away from Vanderbilt in this one, but what a big turnaround in Clark Lee's 4th season in Nashville, a year after going 0-8 in conference play. He retooled the staff, brought in some players like Diego Pavia, and it paid off. And big time get, Diego Pavia, and obviously he's going to be back next year. So that is huge for Clark Lee and company. But a nice win over a good Georgia Tech team, and probably wishes they could have just held on to blow them out like the score was indicating at one point. But nice win for them. Into the evening, we got Arkansas. It was kind of a crazy game against Texas Tech. They grabbed an early lead, had a 21-3 lead after the first quarter. Led just 24-19 at halftime, but the Hogs would score several times in the second half and went on to win this one against Tech 39-26. Taylon Green threw for 341 yards, 2 touchdown passes, also had 81 rushing and a rushing score. Desmond James had 137 yards receiving and a score. And shout out to the defense. I thought Arkansas's defense made some plays, man. Xavier Sori led the way with 10 tackles in the game. And that defense made some big plays with turnovers and whatnot, and they got it done. The Hogs finished the season above 500 at 7-6, quite a turnaround from their 4-8 season a year ago. And now they are rebuilding that roster a little bit through the transfer portal. It'll be interesting to see what they look like next year. But with the Hogs reaching 7 wins, their 5th-year head coach Sam Pittman earns an automatic 1-year contract extension and a $250,000 raise that will kick in on January 1st. So, there was a lot of talk of his job security in Fayetteville. Well, he gets a little bit of that job security with the financial reward. At 63 years old, he gets to drink a whole bottle of champagne if he wants on New Year's Eve to kind of celebrate the success of this season, turning things around after that 4-8 year a season ago. But congrats, Sam Pittman. Congrats to Arkansas. People were asking for my picks on Friday. I didn't think they'd win. I thought with all the opt-outs and portal losses on the O-line and D-line, I didn't think Arkansas would do it. But, man, kudos to that team and kudos to Taylon Green. He played his butt off, and that was a nice win for Arkansas. A not so nice game. Texas A&M in the very late night game on Friday evening out in Las Vegas. Texas A&M jumped out to a dominating 24-7 lead on the Southern Cal near the end of the third quarter, held a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter, but USC would score twice. A&M, they would answer. They would take a 31-28 lead with under 2 minutes to go on a Marcel Reed 19-yard touchdown run, but USC would answer again, marching down the field to score the go-ahead score with just 8 seconds left, and USC would beat Texas A&M 35-31. Marcel Reed with 292 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 46 yards rushing with a score as well. But it's good to see Ruben Owens out there. He had 56 rushing yards. Remember, he's missed almost the entire season with injury, but it was good to see him back in action. And defensively, Jaden Hill and Torian York, they were everywhere racking up tackles, but Aggies with 8 penalties for 73 yards, including 4 of those for 40 yards in the second half. Mike Elko saying, yeah, look, we had 3 15-yard penalties after we went up 24-7. This is the story of the game, and it's the story of our season. We don't understand how to play zone coverage, which is mind-blowing to me. We can't cover the forward pass well enough to be a good football team, so that's my fault. At Texas A&M, they finished the season 8-5. Crazy to think. Heading into November, they were sitting atop the SEC at 7-1 overall, number 10 in the country. But they would go on to lose 4 of their last 5 to finish the season, including 3 in a row. So Elko and company, it's like if you flip it, right? Like if they had finished winning 4 of the last 5 and they're 8-5, everybody's feeling hunky-dory about them. But instead, when you lose 4 out of the last 5, everybody's got a bad taste in their mouth, and you head into the offseason going, man, we got a long way to go to clean things up here. All right, that was a little bit of a recap of the games that happened on Friday. Of course, we're going to have some bowl games happening the rest of the week, and we'll get to see a little bit of Missouri, Iowa for those of you who are listening today. On the 31st, we'll get LSU and Baylor in the Texas Bowl, we'll get Alabama, Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl, South Carolina, Illinois in the Citrus Bowl, and then after our playoff games on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we'll get the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl with Ole Miss and Duke. And, of course, a lot of Ole Miss Rebels playing in that one. All right, a few other notes here before we call it a show. Over at South Carolina, Mike Shula earning the full-time offensive coordinator role at South Carolina after serving as an senior offensive assistant this year. He was asked about running back Rocket Sanders, announcing his decision to declare for the draft, and to avoid risking injury, he will not play in the bowl game. Mike Shula saying, well, look, it's going to be a little bit of running back by committee. I'll leave it a little bit of that in the hands of Coach Blackwell, our running backs coach. He's got a good feel for that. When you have guys you feel like you come in and contribute more than one guy, sometimes you're just going to go with the hot hand and see how that goes. So no Rocket Sanders in the bowl game, but they'll go running back by committee with the guys they do have on the crew. Over at Texas A&M, tight end Trey Watson announced he is declaring for the NFL draft. And some people were kind of wondering, that's an interesting decision. He finished the season with 21 catches for 280 yards, but at an average of 13 yards per catch. Did have 1 touchdown, and so he will move on to the NFL draft. Over at LSU, they're going to be without Major Burns, the safety who has started 33 games in his time at LSU. He is, like we said, not going to play in the Texas Bowl. Sage Ryan already announced he is leaving LSU and heading Ole Miss in the transfer portal. So LSU going to be a little thin there at safety, but they got some guys, freshman Deshaun Spears, Jordan Gilbert to transfer from Texas A&M. So going to be some new faces back there for LSU in their secondary in the bowl game. All right, there you guys have it. That is the latest going on around the conference. You're caught up on everything happening around the SEC. Of course, we'll have more for you throughout this week. And like we said, some coverage from the Sugar Bowl with some player interviews from some guys at Georgia coming your way as well. But thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Come on back and check us out. I'm Chris Gordy. It's been Locked On SEC. Hey, for your second listen, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. Does a good job covering all the biggest stories around the conference. But for this Monday, if this is when you guys are listening to this or watching it, have a great day, everybody. Check back with us throughout this week. We'll have more SEC news and content and interviews coming your way right here on Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.